Said Count Corl, I want to register a protest and to state our objection in the strongest possible terms with the way that this matter has been handled. Leaks came out during the day that moves were afoot at the ECB with regard to the overall deal on the promissory note, and parts of those leaks referred to the winding up of IBRC. Now, it's clear from your statement, Minister, that the Government has had this issue on the agenda for some time as part of your negotiations with the ECB. That matter was not, presumably, meant to come into the public domain today, and you're now telling the House tonight that if we do not adopt this bill immediately, that it poses an immediate risk to the bank. You're informing us of the need to take immediate action to secure the stability of the bank and the value of its assets, valued at €12 billion on behalf of the state. I would like you to have gone into much more detail as to what those risks are, because I'm sure everybody in this House will agree that this is no way to conduct our business. And clearly you are planning to appoint a special liquidator early tomorrow morning in an effort to fireproof the bank from claims by others who may wish to prevent the appointment of a liquidator to protect their own commercial vested interests. I assume that that is the essence of the argument that you are coming forward with tonight, but I would have expected you to justify that in far more detail as to what exactly the risks are, because it is now in the public realm, and has been for most of today, that the Government intends to liquidate IBRC, and I have not got an adequate explanation from you as to why we cannot do that in the normal course of business in this House. Clearly your intention was to announce the wind-up of IBRC as part of the overall package that you hoped to agree with the ECB, but you have been forced for one reason or another to bring all of that forward. Now, leaks have been, unfortunately, a common feature of developments over the last number of weeks. We may never know who leaked this information today, but whoever leaked it first was quickly pursued and was quickly succeeded by many others who gave far greater details of what may emerge tomorrow in respect of the overall deal. And I sincerely hope, Minister, that nothing that has been said in recent days, recent weeks, by senior government people, nothing that has been leaked has in any way jeopardised the best interests of this state. Because when I speak on behalf of Fianna Fáil tonight, that is my sole motivation in responding to this piece of legislation. This legislation, of course, has to be seen in context. The context is a proposal that you have put through Governor Honohan to the Governing Council of the ECB, and which it is hoped on your behalf that that will be adopted tomorrow. We don't know what is in that proposal, with the exception of, again, leaks that have been reported in the media, and we can't be sure of their veracity. I think we should be honest with people tonight and acknowledge that this isn't a liquidation of IBRC in the true sense of the word, because many people all over the country would rejoice at the notion of IBRC being obliterated and taken off the banking landscape with immediate effect. But of course that is not the true effect of what you are proposing here tonight. This is a technical liquidation of IBRC, which will involve, for example, all of the assets of IBRC being transferred to NAMA, and they will be worked out in the fullness of time in the normal course of business. A normal liquidation, as you well know, Minister, and we have seen far too many of them in the last number of years in Ireland than we would have liked to have seen, involve a liquidator being appointed, all of the assets being realised immediately, which would involve fire sailing all of your assets, and whatever is left the creditors will get in order of the hierarchy that's set out in the Companies Acts. That is not what is being proposed. IBRC will live on in a different form by virtue of the assets being transferred to NAMA. I want you, Minister, to give a number of reassurances to the House tonight. You haven't given them adequately during your second stage, and I hope that you will, because this bill presents very fundamental questions that need to be answered adequately before this House decides on the legislation. It is potentially a legal minefield. IBRC is involved in a plethora of cases, as you know, involving, for example, bondholders whom the bank has sought to burn, and there is a case outside of this jurisdiction in respect of that matter, and many other individuals, companies and groups have a gripe with IBRC. And we all know that the best legal brains in this country and further afield are going to be poring over every single word, dot and comma in this legislation to see if it can in any way confer an advantage on their clients. And I assume that, as with any other piece of legislation, that this bill has been constitutionally proofed. There are provisions in it that I would have serious concerns about, including in the title to a bill which refers to permanent or temporary interference with the rights, including property rights of persons. Now, you are asking us to take a leap of faith that all of these issues have been adequately examined, analysed, and that sufficient safeguards have been put in place to protect the national interest. And that is our concern in debating this bill here tonight. Given that the government has signalled that it intends to wind up IBRC, you are presenting us with an argument that not doing so immediately would expose the bank to very serious risk, and that may or may not be the case, and I want you to go into further detail in relation to that. I also want you, Minister, to explain what the benefits are of winding up IBRC immediately, lodging the promissory note presumably with the central bank, transferring the assets to NAMA, because it isn't that long ago, it's only a few months ago in this House that you gave a reply where you stated, in your view, NAMA and IBRC are not in direct competition. Due to funding and operational considerations, it is not considered appropriate to merge the two agencies at this time. Now, that was last September. This is now February, 6 months on. So clearly circumstances have changed. But I do think you need to explain precisely what the implications are of the change in policy of government to immediately liquidate IBRC and transfer the assets to another state agency, the National Asset Management Agency, and spell out for us what the implications are for taxpayers of this particular aspect, ignoring the overall deal, which, as I say, we are completely in the dark about. Can I ask you, Minister, as well, in relation to the remaining creditors of IBRC, the remaining bondholders, they are now small in number, and the value has greatly diminished because they have been substantially repaid. But can you spell out to the House what the implications are for the remaining unguaranteed bondholders in IBRC? In essence, my question is, does this bill involve burden sharing with the remaining creditors of IBRC? That is an important question that I think people deserve to have an answer to. The current CEO of IBRC, Mike Ainsley, and the chairperson of the bank, Alan Dukes, have been before the Oireachtas Finance Committee on a number of occasions, and they have given us an estimate of the likely cost of winding up IBRC, and that cost has been in the range of €25 billion. I want you to explain to the House what the consequences are of what you are proposing in respect of the final bill to the taxpayer of bailing out IBRC in the context of this legislation. I think we deserve to have important and essential information in that respect. I know, Minister, that there is precious little sympathy for staff who work in banks, and that is very unfair, because the vast majority of them had absolutely nothing to do with the crisis which emerged in the banking system as a result of the reckless management of those banks by a relatively small number of people at senior levels across the banks. And I am concerned at what is in this bill in respect of the staff of IBRC, because the legal effect of the appointment of a special liquidator is that their employment will be terminated immediately. That is the direct consequence. Now, you have addressed the issue in your second stage speech, that you expect that the majority of them will be recruited, presumably by NAMA, and that they will have employment, will be rehired for the purposes of the orderly liquidation on such terms as the special liquidator would point out. I do believe, yeah, okay. Well, I do believe you should give clarity on that. You're not giving any guarantee whatsoever. People working in IBRC know that their employment with the bank is not permanent. The bank was in a wind-down mode anyway, but they certainly did not expect to learn tonight that their employment has been formally terminated as of the passage of this legislation. So I think they deserve a better explanation and more reassurance than you have given to this House tonight in respect of that aspect. We have gone through the bill in as much detail as we possibly can in the very short time that has been available to us, Minister. We got a call after 10 o'clock to come over for a technical briefing on the bill, and the context of the bill was in no way explained in respect of the promissory note negotiations that are underway and which you expect to conclude tomorrow. I am prepared on behalf of this party, and we have discussed this in detail within the time that was available to us, to take in good faith your reassurance that not passing this bill tonight exposes IBRC and by extension this state to substantial risk. I am prepared to accept that in good faith. I have no objection in principle to IBRC being wound up with immediate effect. But I do want you to reassure me, reassure my colleagues and everyone in this House that the national interests have been fully protected in respect of the decisions that we are making here tonight. Now, I am not giving you any carte blanche, Minister, in respect of any deal that you may or may not announce tomorrow in this House, and I hope you do announce a deal. I sincerely do. And the support of my party in respect of any deal under promissory note can certainly not be taken for granted.
You have 3 minutes left, Deputy. 3 minutes.
Thank you, Ciarán Comhairle. And I want to say to you, Minister, that the agreement at the Eurogroup last June that there should be a complete separation of banking debt from the sovereign should be the objective of this state. It should be the objective in all of our negotiations with the ECB and all of those who have an interest in this matter. That should be the objective. How would it be fair if the total stock of bank-related debt that this country owes is not reduced by 1 cent, whereas countries in the future that experience banking difficulties may have all of those capital losses fully replenished by the ESM? Because that is what the Eurogroup has decided, that in the future, once the new banking union is established, the ESM will have the power to directly recapitalise banks. Now, why is it that Ireland is not being treated in the same manner? Why is it that because we were the first country to experience this crisis, and as the Taoiseach has acknowledged himself, had European policy imposed in this country, why are we not being treated the same way in respect of that? Based on the leaks that came out today, Minister, we are going to have, I hope, a very long debate on whatever deal may emerge. And the questions that we will want to have answered will be, does the total stock of debt change in any way? You are proposing, apparently, to convert the promissory note to a permanent form of debt, the strongest possible form of debt in the structure of a government bond, which can never again be restructured. This is the opportunity for Ireland to get the best deal that we possibly can, a deal that will result in future budgets being made easier. And that is the prize that is at stake. And in this House, on many occasions, I have wished you well in those negotiations, and my party means that sincerely. I am deeply disappointed with the manner in which this legislation has been brought to this House tonight. We have no objection to winding up IBRC in principle. We want you to give us the reassurances on the issues that I have raised, Minister. They are very reasonable questions. We deserve and require those reassurances on behalf of the people that we represent. Tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow is the day, I hope, when you do come into this House with a deal in respect of promissory notes. But more than anything, Minister, I hope that that is the right deal. I hope that that is a deal that sets us on a new course. I hope that that is the deal that will help to relieve the burden of bailing out banks from the shoulders of the Irish people. And I hope that that is a deal that people will feel in their pockets. I hope it is a deal that the domestic economy will benefit from. And I hope it is a deal that will result in this government being able to inject far more money into job creation initiatives to erode the unacceptably high level of unemployment that we are experiencing in this country.
Thank you.
I wish we had far more time for this debate, Minister. We will engage throughout the time that's left, and I look forward to doing that.